They thought it was mercy, transformed into revelation when raiders attacked the colony. Commander Elena Ortiz summoned mercy, the once feared Marrowclaw she had saved, who charged into battle with her offspring. The massive predator tore through mechanized walkers and enemy forces, demonstrating not just intelligence but loyalty, forever redefining the relationship between humans and the apex predators of Rhea 9. The night on Rhea 9 was never truly dark. Bioluminescent flora cast an ethereal blue glow across the jungle canopy, illuminating the wisps of fog that snaked between massive tree trunks. From the observation tower of Colony Outpost 7, Commander Elena Ortiz watched the phosphorescent landscape with tired eyes. 6 months into her assignment as the colony's exoecologist, she still hadn't grown accustomed to the constant humidity that made her uniform cling to her skin, or the eerie calls of alien creatures that echoed through the night. Elena's weathered face reflected the harsh realities of frontier life. At 42, she had spent most of her career on remote outposts like this one, mining colonies established on resource-rich moons, where Earth Command saw profit potential but little else of value. Her salt and pepper hair was cropped short for practicality, and the lines around her eyes spoke of years squinting through the visors of environmental suits on a dozen different worlds. "Commander, you should get some rest," said Lieutenant Patel, approaching with a steaming cup of something that smelled vaguely like coffee. "The biomineral extraction teams head out at 0600. Elena accepted the cup with a grateful nod. "I know. Just wanted to check the perimeter readings one more time. Something feels off tonight." As if on cue, a shrill alarm pierced the relative quiet of the command center. Red warning lights bathed the room in crimson as both officers rushed to the monitoring station. "Perimeter breach, Eastern Quadrant," Patel reported, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. Motion sensors detected something large crossing the boundary. Elena leaned over the console, studying the readout. "How large?" "Mass calculation suggests approximately 800 kilograms. Patel's voice dropped to a whisper. "Marrowclaw." The word sent a chill through the room. The apex predator of Rhea 9, known for its bone-crushing mandibles and enormous tusks, had claimed the lives of 7 colonists during the outpost's 2-year history. Earth Command's standard protocol was clear: shoot on sight. "Alert security teams," Elena ordered, reaching for her sidearm. "I want visual confirmation before anyone takes action." She paused, studying the erratic movement pattern on the display. "And Patel? Tell them to hold fire until I arrive." The eastern perimeter fence, a 12-foot barrier of charged filaments, capable of delivering a non-lethal shock to most of Rhea 9's wildlife, showed no signs of damage, only a section where the alarm sensors had triggered. Elena led a small security detail through the gate, powerful spotlights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. "Tracks here, Commander," called Sergeant Rivera, kneeling beside massive, 3-toed footprints that sank deep into the muddy soil. "Heading in, and then back out." He looked up, confusion evident on his face. "It breached our perimeter but didn't attack. No casualties, no damage to structures." "That's unusual," Elena muttered, crouching to examine the prints herself. The powerful legs of a Marrowclaw could propel it forward at speeds approaching 70 kilometers per hour when hunting. These tracks showed hesitation, almost uncertainty in their pattern. "It looks like it was stumbling." By morning, rumors had spread throughout the colony. Workers clustered in the mess hall, their voices a low murmur of speculation and fear. "I heard it was injured," said a young technician, leaning forward conspiratorially. "Too weak to attack, but desperate enough to approach human settlement." "Perhaps it was seeking mercy," an older botanist suggested, earning derisive laughter from his companions. "The only mercy for those beasts comes from the barrel of a pulse rifle," retorted a security officer, tapping her weapon for emphasis. Elena silenced the room by standing, her tray of breakfast rations untouched. "We don't know what drove it to our perimeter," she announced, "but I intend to find out. I'm organizing a tracking team. We leave in 30 minutes." The exoecology specialist in Elena recognized the folly of venturing into Marrowclaw territory with a small team. But her scientific curiosity, and something else she couldn't quite name, overrode caution. She selected 5 personnel: Sergeant Rivera for security, Dr. Kofi Mensah for his xenobiological expertise, Lieutenant Patel as navigator, and 2 experienced rangers accustomed to the jungle terrain. They departed as the first rays of Rhea 9's primary sun filtered through the dense canopy, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor. The tracking was straightforward. The creature had made no attempt to conceal its passage. Broken branches, disturbed undergrowth, and occasional smears of a viscous, amber-colored fluid that Dr. Mensah confirmed as Marrowclaw blood marked their path. "It's definitely injured," the doctor said, examining a sample. "The cellular breakdown suggests systemic trauma, not just a surface wound." 3 kilometers from the colony perimeter, the trail led them to a small clearing where a massive tree had recently fallen, its enormous trunk creating a natural barricade. And there, partially pinned beneath the fallen giant, lay one of the most feared creatures on Rhea 9. The Marrowclaw's massive body heaved with labored breathing, nearly 5 meters long from its blunt, armored head to the tip of its muscular tail. Its slate-gray hide was covered in overlapping plates, reminiscent of Earth's prehistoric armadillos, but far more formidable. Most distinctive were the twin tusks that curved upward from its lower jaw, one of which had broken off near the base, creating a jagged wound that leaked amber fluid into the soil. "Sweet mercy," whispered Patel, instinctively stepping backward. "That's exactly what it needs," Elena replied quietly, holstering her weapon. "Look at its position. When the tree fell, its own tusk drove into its shoulder. It's been slowly bleeding out." Rivera raised his rifle. "Commander, regulations are clear. This is the perfect opportunity to eliminate a known threat to colony safety. Killing an injured, helpless creature isn't security. Sergeant, it's cruelty." Elena's voice was firm. "Dr. Mensah, can we treat it?" The xenobiologist hesitated, his dark eyes moving from the creature to Elena and back again. "Theoretically, yes. But Commander, this isn't a pet or livestock. This is a predator responsible for multiple human deaths. And we're responsible for disrupting its habitat, harvesting its food sources, and executing its kind on sight." Elena countered. "Just once. I'd like us to show that humans can do more than destroy." She turned to face her team. "We're going to tranquilize it, remove that broken tusk, treat its wounds, and then release it far from the colony." Rivera's expression darkened. "This is a mistake." "Noted, Sergeant. Now, help me set up a perimeter while Dr. Mensah prepares the tranquilizer." As they approached the fallen tree, a rustling in the nearby undergrowth froze them in place. 3 smaller creatures emerged, juveniles of some reptilian species that inhabited the lower forest layers. Their elongated snouts and bioluminescent eye ridges identified them as scavengers, drawn by the scent of the predator's blood. "They're circling to feed," Rivera said, raising his weapon. "Permission to eliminate the threat?" Elena studied the interaction unfolding before them. The wounded Marrowclaw, despite its compromised position, still commanded respect. A deep, resonating growl emanated from its chest cavity, causing the scavengers to hesitate. "No," she said softly. "They're not attacking. They're establishing a hierarchy. This is valuable behavioral data. Hold your fire unless they directly threaten us." For several tense minutes, the team watched as the scavengers chirped and postured, gradually inching closer to the wounded predator. When one ventured too near, the Marrowclaw lunged with surprising speed, its remaining tusk slashing the air mere centimeters from the smaller creature. The scavengers retreated, but didn't flee, maintaining a cautious distance. "It's conserving energy," Dr. Mensah observed. "Tactical movement rather than panic. Remarkable intelligence for what we've classified as a primarily instinct-driven species." Elena stepped forward, maintaining direct eye contact with the massive predator. Its pupils, vertical slits in amber irises, dilated slightly. Whether in recognition, curiosity, or preparation to attack, she couldn't tell. "Commander!" Rivera hissed. "What are you doing?" "Establishing contact," she replied, without breaking her gaze. She began a low, humming vocalization, an approximation of the sound marrowclaw cubs made when communicating with adults, according to recordings she'd studied. The massive creature's head tilted almost imperceptibly. Taking advantage of the moment, Dr. Mensah raised the tranquilizer rifle and fired a dart into the exposed flesh between two armor plates. The marrowclaw roared, a sound that seemed to vibrate the very air around them, before its movements became increasingly sluggish. Within minutes, its massive head sank to the ground, eyes still fixed on Elena until the lids slowly closed. "Tranquilizer effective," Dr. Mensah confirmed after checking the creature's vitals with a remote scanner. "We have approximately 2 hours before it begins to regain consciousness." "Then, let's work quickly," Elena said, already using her comlink to request a heavy transport vehicle and medical supplies from the colony. "I want it stabilized and moved before it wakes up." News of the marrowclaw's capture spread through the colony like wildfire. By the time Elena's team returned with the sedated creature secured in a reinforced cargo hauler, a crowd had gathered outside the main gate. Expressions ranged from curiosity to outright hostility, with several security personnel gripping their weapons tightly. Colony Administrator Sung stepped forward as Elena dismounted from the transport. His usual diplomatic demeanor had been replaced by barely contained anger. "Commander Ortiz, you have exceeded your authority," he stated flatly. "Earth Command protocols explicitly classify the marrowclaw as a Category 1 threat. You were obligated to terminate, not transport it into our midst." Elena met his gaze steadily. "With respect, Administrator, my primary mandate is to study and understand the ecology of Rhea 9. This specimen offers an unprecedented opportunity to gather data on a keystone species." "Your mandate does not supersede colony safety," Sung countered. "I'm ordering you to put it down immediately." A murmur of agreement rippled through the gathered colonists. But Elena stood her ground. "Sir, I believe Section 23B of the Colonial Charter grants scientific personnel discretionary authority in matters of biological significance. I'm invoking that provision." Administrator Tsung's face reddened. "You're placing legalities above lives, Commander." "No, sir. I'm recognizing that our understanding of this creature is limited precisely because we've only ever shot them on sight." Elena gestured toward the transport. "This one is injured. It approached our colony not to attack, but because it was dying. If we kill everything that frightens us, we learn nothing." Dr. Mensah stepped forward. "Administrator, I support Commander Ortiz's decision. The xenobiological data we could gather from a living specimen is invaluable, potentially worth millions in research grants from Earth's universities." The mention of financial benefit caused Sung to hesitate. Like all colonial administrators, he was evaluated on both resource extraction and scientific discovery metrics. After a long moment, he nodded curtly. "You have 72 hours, Commander. If that creature hasn't yielded significant data by then, or if it poses any threat whatsoever, I will order its termination personally." He turned to the security chief. "Captain Vega, assign a full detail to monitor this project. Shoot to kill at the first sign of aggression." The colony's equipment hangar was hastily converted into a makeshift containment facility. Heavy cargo nets reinforced with steel cables created a secure enclosure, while portable shield generators added an additional layer of protection. Elena supervised the transfer of the still unconscious Marrowclaw, ensuring it was positioned to minimize stress on its injured shoulder. Dr. Mensah worked methodically, first removing the broken tusk fragments that had embedded in the creature's flesh, then applying regenerative gel to accelerate healing. "The physiological structure is fascinating," he commented as he worked. "These armor plates aren't just for protection. They're integrated with a complex system of heat regulation. And look at these sensory nodes along the jaw. I believe they may function as electromagnetic receptors, similar to those in Earth sharks." Elena nodded, though her attention was focused on the creature's eyes, which had begun to flutter. "It's waking up sooner than expected. Everyone clear the immediate area." The security team took positions behind portable barriers, weapons trained on the massive predator. Captain Vega, a veteran of 3 off-world conflicts whose face bore the scars of a previous encounter with native wildlife, checked the charge on her pulse rifle. "One wrong move," she muttered, "and I'm converting it to a trophy rug for the mess hall." The Marrowclaw's return to consciousness was not the explosive event the security team had prepared for. Instead, it came in stages. First, the rhythmic breathing deepened. Then, a low rumble emanated from its chest cavity. And finally, those amber eyes opened, immediately locking onto Elena. For several tense seconds, predator and human regarded each other across the enclosure. Then, with surprising delicacy for such a massive creature, the Marrowclaw attempted to rise. Its injured shoulder gave way, causing it to stumble and emit a sound somewhere between a growl and a whimper. "Easy," Elena said softly, taking a step closer despite Vega's warning hiss. "You're safe." The creature's nostrils flared, taking in the unfamiliar scents of the colony. Its head swiveled, surveying the enclosure, the armed guards, the strange environment. When its gaze returned to Elena, she could almost swear she saw a glimmer of recognition. "That's it," she continued, maintaining her calm tone. "No one here wants to hurt you. We've fixed your tusk and shoulder. You'll feel better soon." "Commander," Dr. Mensah called quietly, "you should know that we found something unusual during the examination. This Marrowclaw is female and shows evidence of recent nursing. She has, or had, cubs." The revelation hit Elena like a physical blow. The creature's desperate approach to the colony perimeter, its weakened condition. "She was seeking help," she whispered. "Not for herself, but for her offspring." Over the next 48 hours, Elena established a routine. She personally oversaw the Marrowclaw's feeding, massive slabs of synthesized protein supplemented with native fauna captured by the rangers. She spent hours observing, recording, documenting every movement and vocalization. Most importantly, she talked to the creature constantly, using the same calm, measured tones. "I'm going to call you Mercy," she told the massive predator on the second evening, seated just outside the containment field. "Because that's what you sought from us, isn't it? And what we should have offered your kind all along." The Marrowclaw, Mercy, tilted her head at the sound of Elena's voice, her injured shoulder now visibly healing thanks to Dr. Mensah's advanced treatments. The broken tusk had been surgically removed to prevent further injury, leaving an asymmetrical profile that somehow made the fearsome creature appear more vulnerable. Not everyone shared Elena's growing attachment. On the morning of the third day, she arrived at the hangar to find Captain Vega and Administrator Sung deep in conversation, their expressions grim. "Your 72 hours are nearly up, Commander," Sung stated without preamble. "And while Dr. Mensah's preliminary reports are scientifically interesting, they don't justify the continued risk to this colony." "Risk?" Elena gestured toward the enclosure, where Mercy lay calmly observing them. "She's been completely docile. The security logs show no aggressive behavior whatsoever." "Predators are patient," Vega countered. Just because it hasn't attacked doesn't mean it won't. My team is on edge. Commander. Exhausted from constant vigilance. Mistakes happen when people are tired. Then rotate your shifts, Elena suggested. We're making progress here. Just yesterday, she responded to a specific vocal pattern I've been using. There's evidence of communication developing. Tsung shook his head. Communication with a predator isn't in our mandate. Commander, biomineral extraction is. This experiment is consuming resources and attention that should be directed toward our primary objective. Before Elena could respond, a commotion at the hangar entrance drew their attention. A young security officer burst in, breathlessly reporting, "Perimeter alarm in the western quadrant. Multiple readings consistent with Marrowclaw signatures." "A hunting pack," Vega said grimly, already moving toward the door. "I need every available officer at the western gate. Now!" Elena's eyes darted to Mercy, whose posture had suddenly changed. The massive predator was now fully alert, head raised, nostrils flaring. A deep, resonating call emanated from her chest, a sound Elena had never heard before. "Wait," she called to Vega. "Look at her reaction. I think those might be her cubs." "All the more reason to neutralize the threat immediately," Tsung snapped. "Captain, deploy your team." "No," Elena moved to block their path. "If those are her offspring, they're searching for their mother. They're not attacking, they're calling for her. Killing them would be—" "Standard protocol," Vega finished coldly. "Stand aside, Commander." Elena held her ground. "Let me try something first. Give me 15 minutes. "People could die in 15 minutes, Tsung argued. "And innocent creatures will definitely die if you don't," Elena countered. "Please. I believe I can resolve this without bloodshed." Something in her intensity must have reached them, for Tsung hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. 15 minutes, Commander. Not 1 second more." Elena rushed to the communications panel and patched into the colony's external speaker system. Then, closing her eyes to concentrate, she replicated the resonating call she had just heard from Mercy, amplified now through speakers along the western perimeter. "What are you doing?" Dr. Mensah asked, having entered during the confrontation. "Telling them their mother is alive and safe," Elena replied. "At least, I hope that's what this vocalization means." For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, the perimeter sensors registered movement, retreating from the colony boundary rather than advancing toward it. Elena repeated the call twice more, and each time, the readings showed the unidentified creatures moving farther away. "They're withdrawing," Vega confirmed, studying the tactical display with evident surprise. "Whatever you did, it worked." Relief washed over Elena, but it was short-lived. An urgent alarm from the monitoring station drew everyone's attention to a different crisis. "Seismic activity detected," the duty officer reported. "Magnitude 5.3. Epicenter 12 kilometers southwest. Structural integrity warnings in sectors 3 through 7. The ground beneath them shuddered as the tremor reached the colony. Rhea 9's unstable tectonic activity was a known hazard, but one that usually manifested as minor tremors rather than significant quakes. "Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the central plaza," Tsung ordered. "Damage assessment teams to affected sectors immediately." In the chaos that followed, Elena's attention remained fixed on the containment enclosure. The ceiling of the hangar had partially collapsed, sending a shower of metal debris down onto the shield generators. Sparks erupted from one unit as it failed, creating a gap in the energy barrier that held Mercy captive. "Containment breach!" shouted one of the guards, raising his weapon. "The creature is loose!" Indeed, Mercy had risen to her full height, easily dwarfing the humans around her. But instead of charging toward freedom, she moved with purpose toward a section of the hangar where a support beam had collapsed, pinning 2 colonists beneath it. "Hold your fire!" Elena commanded, rushing forward despite the danger. She's not attacking! What happened next would later be described by witnesses as either a miracle or the most extraordinary example of interspecies cooperation ever documented on a frontier world. Mercy positioned her massive body beside the fallen beam and, with her remaining tusk, leveraged it upward just enough for Elena to pull the trapped colonists to safety. No sooner had they cleared the danger zone than the beam slipped from the Marrowclaw's grasp, crashing back to the floor with a force that would have surely been fatal. For a breathless moment, humans and Predator regarded each other across the debris-strewn hangar. Then, Mercy turned toward the open doorway, her path to freedom now unobstructed. "Let her go," Elena said softly, as several guards raised their weapons. "She saved those people. She's earned her freedom." To everyone's astonishment, Mercy didn't leave. Instead, she returned to Elena's side and emitted a low, purring sound that seemed to reverberate through the hangar. "Remarkable," Dr. Mensah whispered. "She's imprinted on you, Commander. Or perhaps she sees you as part of her pack now." The next week brought significant changes to Colony Outpost 7. The earthquake damage was repaired, new safety protocols were implemented, and most surprisingly, a large enclosure was constructed at the colony's edge, one with a gate that could be opened to allow its occupant to come and go freely. Mercy became a fixture of colony life, initially viewed with trepidation but gradually accepted as Elena's unusual companion. Dr. Mensah continued his research, documenting the Marrowclaw's remarkable intelligence and adaptability. Most significantly, Elena established a rudimentary form of communication with Mercy, a combination of vocal patterns and hand signals that allowed basic commands and responses. "It's not exactly conversation," she explained to Administrator Sung during a progress review, "but it's far more sophisticated than we ever imagined possible. She understands concepts like stay, come, danger, and even seems to have assigned specific sounds to individual humans she interacts with regularly." Sung nodded thoughtfully. His initial skepticism had softened in the face of undeniable results. "Earth Command is intrigued by your reports. They've authorized expanded research funding and requested detailed protocols for possible implementation at other frontier outposts." "I've been meaning to discuss that with you," Elena said, pulling up a holographic map on her datapad. "We've identified what we believe is Mercy's original territory, here in the Eastern Valley. There's evidence of a small family group, likely her cubs, now nearly adolescent. I'd like permission to establish a research station there." "You want to study them in their natural habitat?" "More than that," Elena replied. "I want to attempt the same communication protocols, but with her entire family unit. If we can establish peaceful coexistence with the dominant predator species on Rhea 9, it changes everything about our long-term presence here." Before Tsung could respond, an urgent transmission cut through their conversation. Captain Vega's voice crackled over the comlink, tense and clipped. "Emergency Protocol Alpha, all security personnel to defensive positions. We have incoming hostiles, heavily armed. Raider signature confirmed." Tsung's face drained of color. "Pirates," he whispered. "They must have detected our last mineral shipment preparation." The threat was all too familiar to frontier colonies. Raiders, typically former corporate mercenaries or displaced miners, preyed on isolated outposts, stealing valuable resources and often leaving no survivors to report their crimes. "How many?" Elena demanded, already moving toward the door. "At least 3 ships," Vega responded. "Tactical analysis suggests 40 to 50 combatants with mechanized support. They're jamming our long-range communications. No way to call for help." The colony's defense force consisted of 25 trained security personnel and perhaps another 30 colonists with basic weapons training. Against professional raiders with military-grade equipment, they were severely outmatched. "Implement Evacuation Plan Delta," Tsung ordered. "Get non-combatants to the emergency shelters. Captain, Deploy your forces at defensive positions around the central plaza. What about the eastern approach? Elena asked, studying the tactical display that showed Raider dropships landing in a semicircle around the colony. We're exposed there. We don't have enough personnel to cover all approaches, Vega admitted grimly. We'll have to concentrate our forces where they can do the most good. A plan began to form in Elena's mind. Desperate. Perhaps even foolish. But possibly their only chance. I need to get to Mercy's enclosure, she said, already sprinting toward the eastern perimeter. Commander, Tseng called after her. Where are you going? To even the odds. Mercy's enclosure was empty when Elena arrived. The gate standing open, as it had been since the Marrow Claw had proven trustworthy enough to come and go at will. For a moment, despair threatened to overwhelm her. Had the predator sensed the coming danger and fled to safety? Then a familiar resonating call from the nearby tree line brought a smile to her face. There you are, Elena whispered, approaching the massive creature that emerged from the underbrush. Mercy's injuries had fully healed, her sleek armor plates gleaming in the afternoon sunlight. She lowered her head to Elena's level, allowing the human to place a hand on her snout, a gesture of trust that still amazed anyone who witnessed it. I need your help, Elena said, knowing that while Mercy couldn't understand the words, she responded to tone and specific vocal patterns. She raised her hand in the signal they had developed for danger, then pointed toward the colony. Mercy's head tilted, amber eyes fixed on Elena with what could only be described as intelligence. Then, to Elena's astonishment, the Marrow Claw emitted a series of short, sharp calls toward the forest, calls that were answered by multiple voices from deeper within the vegetation. You brought your family, Elena realized as 3 smaller Marrow Claws emerged cautiously from the tree line. Not quite cubs anymore, but not yet fully grown. They regarded Elena with wary curiosity. Mercy made another sound, softer, almost reassuring, and the youngsters relaxed visibly. Perfect timing, Elena murmured, raising her comlink. Captain Vega, this is Commander Ortiz. I'm bringing reinforcements to the eastern approach. Hold your position until my signal. Reinforcements? Vega's voice was skeptical. What reinforcements? The native kind, Elena replied with a grim smile. Just be ready to advance when you see the raiders break formation. The first wave of raiders approached the colony's eastern boundary with confidence bordering on arrogance. Thermal scans had shown minimal defensive presence, and their intelligence suggested the colonists' heaviest weapons were deployed elsewhere. 20 mercenaries in light assault armor advanced through the tall grass, flanked by 2 armored walkers, bipedal weapons platforms standing 4 meters tall and bristling with automatic cannons. No resistance detected, the lead raider reported over their tactical channel, proceeding to primary objective. From her position in the underbrush, Elena watched through binoculars as the raiders approached the perimeter fence. Beside her, Mercy and her 3 offspring waited with a stillness that belied their predatory nature. Elena had spent the past 20 minutes using every communication technique they had developed, hoping the intelligent creature understood at least the concept of threatening intruders. Remember the training exercises, she whispered, stroking Mercy's flank. They had practiced target identification using holographic projections, with Elena rewarding the Marrow Claw for distinguishing between colony personnel and simulated hostiles. Whether those lessons would translate to actual combat remained to be seen. The raiders reached the perimeter fence and began cutting through the barrier with plasma torches. Elena raised her hand in the signal they had practiced countless times. Go. What followed would later be described by surviving raiders as a nightmare from prehistoric hell. Mercy burst from concealment with a roar that shook the very air, her massive body moving with impossible speed for a creature of her size. The first raider barely had time to turn before 500 kilograms of armored predator slammed into him, sending him flying into his companions. The younger Marrowclaws spread out in a coordinated flanking maneuver that spoke to their species' pack-hunting instincts, cutting off the raiders' retreat. The mercenaries opened fire, pulse rifles discharging with frantic intensity. But most shots glanced off the Marrowclaws' natural armor plating. The armored walkers presented a more significant threat. One pilot managed to target Mercy with its main cannon, the explosive round detonating against her flank. The impact staggered the massive predator, but didn't penetrate her armor. She responded by charging directly at the mechanical behemoth, her remaining tusk finding the gap between the cockpit and the weapons platform. With a twist of her powerful neck, she tore through critical control systems, sending the walker crashing to the ground. "All units! Eastern perimeter is compromised," a raider commander shouted into his comlink. "Unknown hostiles. Some kind of native predators working with the colonists. Fall back to secondary positions." Elena seized the moment of confusion to signal Captain Vega. "Raiders are breaking formation. Push forward now." The colony's security forces, bolstered by Vega's tactical expertise, launched a coordinated assault from their defensive positions. Caught between the Marrowclaws' savage attack and the colonists' determined defense, the raiders found themselves in an untenable position. The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. When it ended, 15 raiders lay dead, twice that number wounded or captured, and the remainder had fled to their ships, abandoning equipment and comrades in their desperate escape. The colony had suffered minimal casualties, 3 wounded security officers, and some structural damage to outlying buildings. In the aftermath, Elena found Mercy and her offspring at the edge of the forest, the adult Marrowclaw nursing a superficial wound where the walker's cannon had impacted her flank. Elena approached slowly, medical kit in hand. "You saved us all," she said softly, applying regenerative gel to the injury. Mercy rumbled a low, almost contented sound, her amber eyes half closed as the pain-relieving properties of the gel took effect. The younger Marrowclaws watched from a respectful distance, seemingly taking cues from their mother's relaxed demeanor. Captain Vega approached, her armor scorched from combat, but her stride confident. She stopped several meters away, regarding the Marrowclaws with newfound respect. "I've spent my career hunting creatures like these," she said, holstering her weapon. "Never imagined I'd be fighting alongside one." She met Elena's gaze. "You were right, Commander. About everything." "Not everything," Elena replied, standing. "I thought we were offering mercy to a dying predator. I never imagined we were forging an alliance that would save us all." Administrator Tsung declared the following day a colony-wide celebration, both of their victory over the raiders and of the unprecedented partnership with Rhea 9's apex predators. In a formal ceremony attended by all colonists, he unveiled a memorial plaque at the eastern gate, not to commemorate fallen humans, but to honor the Marrowclaw cubs that had been lost before Mercy found her way to the colony. Today marks a new chapter in humanity's relationship with the worlds we settle, Tsung announced. Commander Ortiz has shown us that exploration need not always mean exploitation, that understanding can be more powerful than fear, and that even the most fearsome creatures may become our greatest allies when treated with respect and compassion. Elena stood at the ceremony's edge, Mercy a looming presence beside her. The massive predator had groomed herself for the occasion, her armor plates gleaming in the sunlight, her single remaining tusk polished to a pearl-like sheen. The 3 younger Marrowclaws had returned to the forest, but Elena knew they remained nearby, gradually adapting to the strange human settlement on the edge of their territory. "The Colony Council has unanimously approved your research station proposal," Tsung told her after the ceremony. "Earth Command is, well, let's say they're equal parts astounded and intrigued by our reports. They're dispatching a xenobiological research team on the next supply ship." "And Mercy's status?" Elena asked. "Her family?" Officially classified as protected sentience under Colonial Charter Amendment 47, Tsung replied with a faint smile. The first non-human species on Rhea 9 to receive such designation. Their territory is now a restricted reserve, with only authorized personnel permitted entry. Elena nodded, satisfaction warming her chest. It was more than she had dared hope for when she first knelt beside that wounded predator in the forest. That evening, as twilight bathed the colony in purple-tinged shadows, Elena sat on the observation platform overlooking the jungle canopy. Mercy lounged nearby, her massive head resting on her forelegs, amber eyes half closed in contentment. "You know," Elena said conversationally, "when I first ordered your life spared, they said I was showing mercy to a monster." She smiled as the creature's eyes opened fully at the sound of her name. "They thought it was just kindness to end your suffering quickly and cleanly. None of us understood that true mercy meant giving you a chance to show us who you really were." Mercy rumbled low in her chest, a sound that Elena had come to interpret as agreement or satisfaction. Then, with delicate precision for such a massive creature, she extended one clawed limb and deliberately tapped the platform twice, the signal they had developed for friend. "Yes," Elena agreed, placing her hand on the Marrowclaw's armored snout. "Friends. Perhaps the first human Marrowclaw friendship in history, but hopefully not the last." In her official report to Earth Command, transmitted that night, Elena wrote, "What began as an act of compassion toward a wounded predator has evolved into something unprecedented in colonial history, a genuine symbiotic relationship between humans and an indigenous apex species. The creature we now call Mercy has demonstrated intelligence, emotional complexity, and capacity for cooperation far beyond our previous understanding. Most importantly, she has shown us that the path to successful colonization may not lie in dominating alien worlds, but in finding our place within them, not as conquerors, but as partners in a delicate ecological balance. By choosing mercy over fear, we have gained not just a fascinating research subject, but a powerful ally and protector. Perhaps this model can serve other frontier colonies, transforming our approach to new worlds from exploitation to cooperation, from fear to understanding, from conflict to coexistence." As the message transmitted across the vast distances to Earth, Elena remained on the observation platform, watching as bioluminescent flora began their nightly illumination of the jungle canopy. Beside her, Mercy's rhythmic breathing provided a counterpoint to the alien sounds of Rhea 9's nocturnal awakening. In the distance, the calls of the younger Marrowclaws echoed through the trees, no longer threatening, but familiar, almost comforting. "Tomorrow," Elena said softly, "we'll begin mapping your family's territory, establishing boundaries that both our species can respect." She glanced at the massive predator. "And maybe you can show me where you find those purple fruits your cubs seem to love. Dr. Mensah thinks they might have medicinal properties." Mercy's amber eyes reflected the starlight as she turned her gaze toward Elena. And for a moment, just a moment, the human could have sworn she saw understanding, even amusement, in those alien depths. Then the Marrowclaw stretched, her massive form uncoiling like a spring before settling back into a comfortable position, her armored flank pressing gently against Elena's side. Together, human and predator watched as Rhea 9's 3 moons rose above the horizon, casting their silver light across a world where the line between predator and protector, between mercy and wisdom, had forever been blurred. And in that blurring, Elena realized both species had found something precious, a future neither could have achieved alone. In the morning, she would begin documenting this extraordinary partnership for posterity. Scientists would study it, administrators would regulate it, and future generations would perhaps take it for granted. But for tonight, Elena was content to simply experience the quiet wonder of sitting beside a creature that humans had once feared above all others. A creature that now guarded their home, as if it were her own. "Mercy," she whispered, the name itself a reminder of how this unlikely alliance began. The Marrowclaw rumbled in response, the sound vibrating through Elena's body like a purr. And in that moment, she knew with absolute certainty that they had found not just a new way to survive on this alien moon, but a better way to live.